Welcome to Coinomi X Space. Today we're excited to bring you a special Wolf Swap AMA where we dive deep into crypto. This conversation was recorded live on X Spaces on March 20th, 2025. Please note that the views and opinions expressed in this AMA are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the official stance of Coinomi Wallet. This content is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We encourage you to conduct your own research before making any decisions. If you enjoy this content, don't forget to subscribe and like the video to support our channel. Now let's get started. Enjoy.
GM, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Wolf Swap Space. And as usual, I'm your co-host, Bassa. And as always, guys, before we get started on today's space, going to redirect everyone's attention here to the top of the Jumbotron, right? And if you guys can do me a solid, I'm going to be pinning the space link to the top here. So any interaction you guys can do, like what DeGanja was sharing here in the very early moments of today's space, share this in the group chats, share this in the Telegram community. A lot of great projects and partners on today's space. So I do very quickly want to check in with every single one of them. I'll start off here first, though, with DeGanja himself. Ganja, what's going on, brother? How are you doing, man?
Yo, I'm chilling, bro. I'm doing great. I got one eye here, and I'm trying to figure out what Trump is going to say in this digital asset summit, or not what he's going to say, what he says. He's supposed to be speaking anytime now. It's not like a live thing, though. It's a recorded video. So if I do find out the information, I will relay as soon as possible. But yeah, bro, I'm just chilling. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing well, as always, man. Really excited to be back here, and I would love those updates as well. I know that's actually going on as we're, at least going live on today's space. But nonetheless, Ganja, I appreciate you. Let's keep it pushing here with our guests. We have and are joined today by the amazing Honey Jar team. The Honey Jar, what's going on, guys? How are we doing?
Hello.
Hello.
Well. Thanks for
what's
having
going
us,
on?
man.
Yeah,
Doing
absolutely.
good. It's a nice morning over here. Sun is shining. Honey is spreading. The berry eco is thriving. It's a good day.
Let's go,
Thanks for having
man.
us.
Absolutely. I would say the same thing. It's actually bright and early here in the west coast of Cali, 8 a.m. Sun is out and bright. So nonetheless, a beautiful day. Appreciate your time here, honey. Let's go here to FIO Protocol. FIO Protocol, what is going on, guys? How are we doing today?
Hello. Thanks for having me. Yeah, this is Micah from FIO. Happy to be here. It's the first one of these spaces I'm joining and super excited. The sun is also shining here. I'm in the beautiful island of Puerto Rico in San Juan, looking out my window, staring at the beach. Just loving life.
Yo, what a vibe, man. I gotta say, I gotta take a trip out there one day.
You do. Strong crypto community here. Come hang out.
Man, that's awesome, man. But Theo, appreciate your time here. Thanks for joining today's panel. And as always, looking forward to many new guests here on today's stage. We also have Coinomi with us today. Oh, whoa, that music came out of nowhere. I think we're all good there. Coinomi, what's going on, guys? How are we doing today?
Hey, sounds like everyone has a bit more sunny weather than here in gloomy New York, but the sun is slowly poking out. Very happy to be with everyone today. Some familiar faces like partners we have had for years at FIO and new faces like Honey. So thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely, Coinomi, man. Again, I know we're in the opposite weather here. What is the weather? Just really quickly, what's the weather like right now in New York, Coinomi?
We're getting about 44, partly cloudy. I like to say a bit ominous looking, but I think it's ushering in some better prices. So we'll have to keep a track on that as we hear what Trump has to say at the Asset Summit later today.
Yo, don't worry, bro. It's not much better in Toronto. It's raining. Bowser knows. Every time I talk to Bowser, it's snowing
I
in
never
Toronto.
said I was jealous of Canada. Never said
yeah.
I was jealous of Canada.
But yeah, it's gloomy and raining here too, but probably a little colder.
I was about to say, I think Ganji forgot to mention the weather updates up there. But dude, nonetheless, it seems like we're all tuning in inside in front of our offices. So nothing changes for the crypto bros, I will say. But Koinami, much love. Appreciate your time here. Let's check in with Matrica. Matrica, what's going on, guys? How are we doing?
What's up, guys? How are you? I'm doing good. Thanks for having us on the space, and I'm looking forward to discussing. Let's go.
Let's do it, man. And I believe this is all of our guests on today's panel. So yet again, another banger panel on another Wolf Swap space. And I feel like I didn't get to mention this yet, but our choice of topic of discussion is along the lines of building strong core communities. And again, I think this is something that I can often revisit, every now and then. And the reason why I say this is because I feel the blueprint and the formula to building strong core communities are ever so changing, especially with the current environments and the way market sentiment can kind of affect this. But nonetheless, we have a stacked panel today, so I'm very excited to hear all the different types of insights. But look, I think one of the best ways to kind of ice break and ease our way into discussions today, and it's really on this concept of you building your first 100 loyal followers, right? And if we're talking core communities, I think we have to look this in the lens of people that are beyond users, people that actually genuinely believe in the product. They align themselves extremely well with the brand and the vision of the product. But it's very easier to say than done, which is why, again, we're having a discussion around this. But look, I do just want to start off here with Ganja. I know, Ganja, you're probably like the closest representative on the Wolf Swap here. So I'm gonna toss it over to you, just at least kind of ice break our way into the conversation. But Ganja, just curious to know from your perspective on what even is and how do you define a strong core community nowadays, right? What metrics kind of exemplify this, but also what are some strategies that projects can kind of take in to help build this core community? Ganja, if you don't mind, just sharing some quick insights, and then we'll toss the microphone around. That'd be awesome, man. Go ahead.
I'm definitely not going to cover all, so it's a good thing it's a large panel, but just a couple that come to mind really quickly. Things that define a strong core community, I think number one is, a solid founder who's transparent and has a definitive, solid project that they're working on. I mean, in meme coins, sometimes we don't give blanking on the word here, but what we're supposed to do. Holy crap. I don't know why I can't think of what I'm supposed to say right now, but yeah, we're not getting in meme coins. They don't say, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that per se, but it's still like a strong project, but it's based around the founder, right? And also I think it's more so people that show up every day, right? In terms of the community themselves, people that show up every day, they're in the Discord, they're in the Telegram, they're on the timeline, and they're bull posting about your project, right? It may not always be like new things. It might be kind of repetitive things, but like it's people who are always out there posting the project without being like, paid for it. They might be getting rewarded for it. So in Wolf Swap, we do rate to earn. A lot of communities do rate to earn, but the amount that you get, it's not gonna like change your life when you do the rate to earn. You're doing the raids because you believe in the project, because you are a member of the community that wants to get the word out that this is a good project and other people should come here too. And like it all starts with the founder, in my opinion. And Alex is a great example of that.
Yeah, first of all, I want to give a shout out to Alex, man. I know he's actually out, I believe, in Poland at a conference pitching Wolf Swap. I think he ended up as a finalist out there. So much love to him. I hope he's doing well. We'll hopefully get some updates in the next weeks regarding that. But nah, Ganja, you mentioned a really solid point here. And first of all, I think it's easy to say that this space is very financially, driven. A lot of people, especially with KOLs, they do get paid per se to shill and sometimes talk about and promote projects. But I feel if you're a veteran in this space, you can kind of sniff and you can kind of tell when something is genuine versus when something is paid. And this kind of reflects on how the product itself is being received to the community, right? You mentioned this almost like this flywheel effect that kind of stems from a good product is that people will naturally share this with their friends, right? I mean, for me, whenever I come across a good video game, I'm talking about it with my friends because it's simply a good video game, right? Nothing much left to it other than that. And so I think the same can kind of apply here with how I see these, projects. And whoa, there's a random music coming from the main Wolf Swap page account. So I hope we're all good on that. But look, man, nonetheless, I do want to keep breaking the ice here. I see we also just brought up Juju with his beautiful Good Vibes Club PFP. But I do want to pass it over here first to the Honey Jar. And Honey Jar, first of all, man, you guys are killing it over there at the Bear Eco. But love to just first, gain your insights on essentially the same type of question I asked here with Ganja on how do you define a core community nowadays? Honey Jar, would love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say what defines a core community are the people who are most aligned with you. What your product is, what your vision is, um, and who are coming in every day. But not just that, the people who are actually consuming what you're producing, whether it's on the timeline, whether it's content, that all has network effects that come back ultimately to what your motive is and the products you're pushing out. I think Ganja made a great point about transparency and the founders. It's really top down how culture is set, and then from there, what your audience feels and what they're doing. We're obviously nestled in the Bearchain ecosystem. We're a venture studio that has a variety of products, and if you look back at the Bearchain ecosystem, how that started, I can sort of touch on my experience, helping contribute to that community. It was just 100 people or so in a NFT server of bears smoking weed, and we all just really enjoyed the initial vibe. We liked the art. We enjoyed spending time with each other, and that's really setting the ground floor. And with that, you had the founders of the chain now, like Smokey or Dev or some of those early set users. Participating in the culture, perpetuating it, so we could really understand, like, okay, this is the vibe. We understand it, and we can now pass that forward along the way. So I think that's a great way to sort of build out your community from top down with founders who are transparent. Similarly, with the Honey Jar, our leader, the janitor, Deep Name 99. He's
Yeah.
out there on the timeline. He's DMing people for whitelist for a project. He's very vocal, and once other people see that, they sort of innately want to sort of perpetuate that as well, or they see the work and they see the vision. So I think just putting in the hours, that top down sort of effect is really how you start and get people to want to stick in your community
Yeah.
before you even give them the
Love
product necessarily.
love that response, bro. And by the way, I recognize a fellow microphone user when I hear them. So great choice on the microphone, bro. I will say that. But
Thank you, sir.
just to quickly, yeah, following up though, because you raised an amazing point here. Do you think that founders kind of carry this responsibility of shaping the culture of the brand, right? And can a core community almost exist if this leader weren't there, or is it almost like a mandatory, a necessity thing that must exist? Curious to know your thoughts on this, Honey Jar. Oh, I think you're muted if you are speaking.
No, yeah, no. Um, I think it's in like in these conditions, I think it's needed, right? People want to believe in something, right? And if your founder isn't vocal and they're not, they're really not showing that, whether it's transparency, what you're providing, or just being vocal. It's like it's harder, I think, for people to believe and want to have conviction and stay and put in their time, especially if any assets or financial benefits are farther out, because as we know in crypto and Web3, it takes time to build out these things, and retaining people is hard. So I'd say you need a vocal founder.
Absolutely, man, and love how you use janitor as an example. That man is active. I will say that on Spaces, tweeting almost every single day. So that is the type of founder that I think is really devoted to the mission here. But honey, appreciate the ice break again. This is just to kind of open the discussion today. So I love what I'm hearing so far. Gonna pass it over here to Fio next. Fio, and again, maybe just to kind of pivot from what's already been shared, and kind of honing in on this culture aspect, because I think what Honey Jar just mentioned is so crucial to have. Um, how does one kind of even just build culture in a brand? What are some necessary foundational pillars, steps that are needed to get this culture going? Theo, love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, sure. So, culture, what is culture, right? It's just a gathering of people with a shared interest, typically a shared purpose. But I think more than anything, right, culture is defined, I think, by our resilience to adversity and how we kind of zoom out and are able to overcome challenges with each other. Because culture doesn't remain culture if people, can't overcome their differences. People just bail, right? So I've been involved in many different cultures, from early days of throwing raves in electronic community in downtown LA to throwing LAN parties for Counter-Strike competitive, gaming tournaments, things like that, to even more tech focused things. Like I started, I want to give a shout out to Coinomi. That was actually one of the first wallets I used when I got into mining Ethereum on T-Rex on through Ethermine. Right? There's all these kind of cool little sub communities, and how do we retain ourselves in them? Right? It's typically how do we deal with overcoming challenges, and how do we deal with adversity? Right? And finding, I think, cohesion through purpose, or uh, you know a collective goal. Going back to kind of what your last question was, how do we build community, through uh, through good following? I think that can really change depending on the system of governance. FIO protocol is a DAO, and one of the things that's been interesting is moving from having a job that's always been in more of a corporate atmosphere, or even a small business, right?
Mm.
An LLC, you have a president, and then you have middle management bosses, things like that. At FIO, we definitely had strong founders, and as time went on, other people in the community took over some leadership roles, right? The new school became the old school by just rising up to the occasion and becoming steering committee members and taking leadership where we could, because it was more of an active level playing field. So it's been interesting to see how different government structures can kind of help define community, but it's still always wrapped around resilience. How do we deal
Mm.
with conflict, right? How do we deal with a DAO that has an interesting governance structure when it becomes a gathering of people larger than 30 people, right? Because then that just kind of can spiral issues, when you have so many people coming together with different philosophies. So um, yeah, always a student, but
Yeah.
I love this topic of community because it's something that I've always been really passionate about and always really paid attention to. And but yeah, I would say that resilience is always the cornerstone. And how do you deal with that effectively?
I love this. And Theo, just to follow up, I just want to do a quick little question with you, because from my observations, and I wouldn't coin this as a pushback, but something that I've noticed when it comes to the conversation around DAOs is, how far is it when you let your community shape the future of the project versus like leaning into them for feedback? And sometimes what or I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I compare this to like a community takeover with meme coins, right? Sometimes some of these meme coins go extremely well. They go crazy when the right CTO happens, but sometimes, maybe in other cases, if it's the wrong community leader stepping up and no one really has a direction, the coin itself can get very lost, right? So do you think there's a threshold when it comes to letting your community have a say in the future of the project, or should that all kind of be dependent on the team, the core team themselves? Curious to know your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I do think it makes a huge difference. And again, it's about, if you have bad actors, which you always will in a group of people that's, I'd say, 20 to 30 or above, um, you have to really ensure that you have something in place to deal with that, and to deal with that quickly and effectively, um, because that is basically you know the trade-off, and there's trade-offs to everything. um, if you have an amazing leader, right, like CEO of NVIDIA, of course that project's going to do well, right? um, but if that leadership breaks down, and the buck can stop with him. So I do think it's very important when you're dealing with, like I said, an organization 30 to 50 people to have more of a traditional kind of focus and structure to some degree. But I do think it's possible to be able to have, open dialogue and allow people to come in and have a funnel for that. You just have to be, aware that problems are going to arise. And if you have bad actors, you have to have policies. You have to have policies in place,
Mm,
and you have to really back up those policies effectively and, without mercy.
yeah, extremely well said. Koinami, I see your hand is raised. Please go ahead, man.
Yeah, always happy to follow Theo because they've been around quite a long time, as well as have we, seen a lot of things together. To lead everyone through a little bit of the evolution that we saw from 2016 on, I remember back when people were using Slack as an early Discord to communicate before really migrating to Telegram, which didn't have that kind of thread vibe. It was just one place for everyone to talk and usually get scammed pretty quickly before the time of really good, bots with different detection of fake accounts, all those things that help us moderate and control expansion today. But that keyword expansion is much easier when you use Discord and other technologies that are built for larger growing communities. What I wanted to add is that once you have that good founder, once you've built your first 100 followers, as we would call kind of the zealots, who are going to help you bring the next part of the community on board, you really have to be prepared for expansion in this field, really quick expansion at that. We went at one time from about 7,000 people in our Telegram all the way up to 28,000. I remember because that night I didn't sleep much between banning different bot accounts and fake accounts and real accounts with bad intentions. So you really have to have your moderation team prepped or technology solutions that help you moderate a large group of people at any time, given we know it can do when a project kind of gets rated. We haven't had those issues specifically because we are building, we've been building a wallet for so long. So our partnerships and the people who are coming to our wallet and our social media, it's usually people from our partners like Theo, and I think Theo has the same since they've partnered with dozens and dozens of wallets and chain providers. So we would go to Avalanche or Hedera and have large influxes of maybe 3, 4, 5,000 people from each of these communities and have to moderate and prepare to answer their questions very differently for people on other chains, let alone the technological differences. Our partnerships and the marketing strategy would look different for each chain. So we still have been figuring that out this next cycle, as we've done it with ICOs, we've done it with DeFi projects and NFT groups, and it's always about staying on your feet and having an adaptable team. And again, zealots who are really willing to help you as a moderator without asking for admin responsibilities or things that no one would give away. So that's been really important. And I would say planning expansion is something you need to consider earlier here than a lot of other communities.
That's powerful, Koinami. And I'm curious from your perspective, Koinami, on like, I feel with, platforms like wallets, protocols, etc., they tend to attract more of the hundreds of thousands per se users. And, I feel these bigger pools tend to turn into sub communities, right? These little niche like, I guess, communities that get built over time. How do you manage them, right? And is this kind of healthy for an ecosystem to kind of thrive on its own per se? What are your thoughts on this, Koinami?
So a chat will grow unhealthy if it's doing too many things. We sort ours into utilities and more the community side of the community aspect. After you separate by language or location, which can be really important for building a global community that feels welcomed when they see hello in their own language or where they see people online during their time zone for that specific chat. If a chat is where people are posting memes and trading info and all this at once, as we all know, this is basic advice. You need to segregate and make some different categories. But we really do separate in utility of support channels, of places that community members can help other members with our Q&A. That's one place. And then we support the fun and awesome things in other channels. It's kind of about wearing two hats as you moderate both individually and just making sure, and I hate using this word right now, but making sure that they both have an individual vibe that you can detect or read from the rules when you pull up that page. It does say something though that when people brag about Coinomi or even field protocol, they're not usually pushing a token or a coin. And that makes it very easy on our end to say, tell your friends, because you don't have to go out there and endorse an investment or endorse some kind of protocol where they're putting their money. So that's an advantage we have and why you see hundreds of thousands of people instead of tighter and smaller communities. But with those hundreds of thousands of people, then you have to ask yourself, how do we be engaging enough that they don't need to look at their wallets, Telegram every day, but they also don't decide to just exit the channel because they have it on their phone, and then we look like we don't have many followers or any app usage. So with a technology that's not on chain with on chain volume and that anonymizes all of your information and never sells your data, we want to make sure that people know that Coinomi is active and a place where we have a community that's responsive, but also that we're not spamming you inside of our technology with messages that you need to rate or respond or reply for any incentive. So it's a balance.
I had to throw the ding there because that was a gem. And I feel this is kind of like the issue in this space is that there's a lot of endorsing when it comes to either a token or maybe something tech related. But again, I always try to look things from the lens of like someone that's non-native crypto, right? Because I think there's this all agreed mission that eventually we all want to expand and distribute our products out there. And it's about that user experience. How do people kind of get familiar with the products that we're building? So Konami, extremely well said. I see you muted if you want to add anything.
You know, yeah,
Yeah,
can you
yeah,
hear
we
me
can hear
now?
you. Yeah, you're loud and clear.
Excellent. User experience is as much as about how someone interacts with your product, the same as they feel when they're actually using it. That's why you say experience. And what we've focused a lot in the past few years is this shift that people have, I would say, frankly, from going to church or their religion into products and into brands that make them feel part of something and unified with a community. We realized that we could drive up metrics if we have a little game in the Telegram or Discord and everyone has to click in once a day for a reward. That's definitely something, but that's not going to build the same community drive and engine to promote things and to push people into better technologies that we launch if they're not really feeling attached to Koinami as a brand and to other Koinami users as a community. So that's what we're really focusing on fostering in 2025 and 2026 as we launch some initiatives that are really long term that don't just keep people engaged and tapping with their fingers, but really let them know that they're part of a wider Konami community over the entire world and even locally in different places where they live or just exist online in different gaming communities, in different shopping communities. So we're really trying to grow this, but of course, like I mentioned, you have to prepare yourself for expansion because if you're throwing a lot at the board, or if you're launching a lot for your community base, like ours of 12 million downloads and hundreds of thousands of users every day in the app, you have a lot of different people that you're catering to and that you want to make sure feel seen and heard. So by focusing on the largest demographics, even that alone, we're already building out in 5 or 6 ways for this upcoming year of different community campaigns. So we really focus on how do we turn people into zealots of the Koinami religion, because those people are going to be your best allies, and because that's how you should treat your community. You just got to realize that not everyone's going to have the time or effort or excitement, because you just can't reach everyone like that. But as long as you can get those people on board, then they'll help you do the work for you, and you'll reward them by building the best product you can.
Yo, Koinami's just bars. That's all. Okay, if this was a rap session, that is straight bars, man. Very quickly though, I do want to do a quick little space reset. I know we're 36 minutes in today's space. First of all, much love to everyone down here in the audience that is making time to be here in today's Wolf Swap spaces. And if you're enjoying it as much as I am, first of all, shout out to Juju for posting the space link. It's now the second link to the left here for those that do want to show some love. So if you're enjoying it like myself, definitely show some love on that end. Really quickly, I see Ganja's hand is up. Before I pass it to him, something that I want to highlight that Koinami mentioned, man, is this emotional layer to these brands. And I'm reading a book right now. It's called Building a Story Brand 2.0. Author is an amazing. His name is Donald Miller. But essentially, he summarizes this that, in human nature, we have this natural instinct to want to be a part of something. And it's just maybe just coined in, it's built in us with this natural tendency to want to feel like we're a part of a culture. And this is where I think crypto is kind of lacking in a bit, in my opinion, because we get so lost in the tech side of things, I feel sometimes. And I know it's so heavily reliant on innovation and getting the word out there. But what Koinami said, and I think a really great example of this is like the Chain ecosystem, man. I think, the language, I think it's something that you mentioned, Koinami, as well. It's like they have their own brand Bible, if I can describe it like that, right? Like they have their own tonality, they have their own phrases and words that the community all recognize and share together. And so naturally there's this result of like this cult-like community, right? And that happens over time. I think a lot of people kind of underestimate how long this process actually takes, but this stuff doesn't happen overnight, man. It happens with a repetitive experience of using these words and phrases, and eventually people will start to catch on. So very powerful advice here from Koinami. Extremely well said. Let's go to Ganja first, and then Honey Jar. I saw your hand is up, so I do want to go to you afterwards. Ganja, what's going on?
Yo, not to detract from the topic, but I did tell you guys I'd give you an update. Trump talking at Digital Asset Summit. It was a video, like I'd mentioned. It wasn't live. It was a big nothing burger. It's nothing we haven't heard already. It's all the same kind of stuff that he's been saying, and nothing new was announced. So that's why the markets have not really reacted. Also, I really like honey and I really like bees. And like, honestly, it's really, really deep. It is really like some people say honey can, like, it has magical powers and stuff. But if you just look at it this way, they found honey that's like 3,000 years old in ancient Egyptian tombs, and it is completely edible to this day. So that should say something about honey right there.
I love the alpha, the history lessons there. Honey Jar, what's going on?
No, I was going to say, Ganja, that's bullish to hear, but no, I think you made a great point, Baza, about it takes time to sort of build out these communities. I think in our situation, it was a bunch of these bear smoking weed NFTs, and then this rumblings of a chain, and then once that really started to flesh out, right, people started to understand like, oh, this is like a novel L1 blockchain that's utilizing proof of liquidity, and there's going to be so many financial games to be played. But in tandem with that was this shit posting culture, people from both left and right sides of the curve who just happen to be at the right place at the right time. In 2021, the bears really formed during the bear market, and I think one thing about building strong communities, funny enough, is like trauma bonding. We spent, I can speak to my own experience
Real.
FW, like we spent I can't even tell you how many hours we spent in just Discord hanging out, introducing people like, hey, you don't know what you don't know what these NFTs are? Here you go. Oh, you don't know what proof of liquidity is? Oh, here you go. And just sort of friendly engaging with people throughout that bear market, and then on their own accord they'd be like, oh, this is a nice community. Oh, now this tech stuff's pretty interesting. Oh, but I also love the culture. So I think that's one way to go about it. And then planning for the future, I think, is massive, right? We anticipated, this wave coming to Bearchain a few years ago, and that's where we started our Honeycomb NFT, sort of to be a call option onto Bear. We anticipated, a large influx of people. So, during that Silicon Valley bank run, I think it was in March of 2023, we said, you know what, we're going to launch our product, which is a perks aggregator. So we said there's already dozens of people building. There's going to be large influxes of people coming. We're going to make it easy for you just to have our Honeycomb NFT, which we gave 40% away to just people in the community. We had no VC backing, no allocation to team or nothing, just a wide distribution as much as possible to our early users and the current small community at that time. And by doing that, we had a wide distribution of people. They all received perks along the way, whether that was whitelists, mints, whether that was yield and with many of our other partners. So just giving back as much value as early as possible, and having a low barrier to entry for people, right? Because one of the other good ways to build a strong community, as Smokey said a bunch, is make your early users like rich, or provide money for them. They'll stay. That's one way to go about it realistically, but also building for the future, right? So over time, we sold out our 16,420 Honeycomb NFTs, had a wide distribution of it. You can see all that on our Dune dashboard, and we're a very data-centric, organization. And through that, we were able to, provide more, pieces along the puzzle and look at what is needed for this growing ecosystem. One example is, there's no native questing platform. Down the line, when this L1 comes out, there's going to need to be a funnel for people to learn about how to do these technical DeFi elements, who maybe came in from the great memes or some of our NFT mints, right? So we created Cub quests. People could do badges, do quests, get badges, right? And then that gets a whole other audience who came during testnet, who learned a few things from that, right? So I think planning for the future is huge. And then whether it's other things like, products for protocols, having them use a locker, like Interpol, which is one of our products, which is, more of a security measure. Just finding things that are needed. And I think providing value in any way possible. This is what we try and do. And I think important to build communities.
I feel like it's just an endless amount of streams, honestly. And you highlighted many great points here, Honey. And speaking of other protocols that I think executed this really well, especially when you mentioned the whole rewarding your first time users. I think of Hyperliquid, man. Like the people that got into Hyperliquid extremely early, and for them to receive such an amazing amount of the airdrop token when that happened. That is the type of, I feel, financial loyalty that people kind of cling on to, and eventually they're going to want to come back to the platform and continue to use it. So really, really well said. I see JJ here. Welcome to the panel. First of all, see your hand is up. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's conversation, man. Go ahead.
Hey, GM, everyone. I appreciate you making this kind of space because building strong core communities is what is the magic that allows projects to make it, right. Honey touched on a couple of good points. The trauma bonding, right. I grew up in New York City, and I was in New York City during 9/11, and that rally behind the flag effect is real when seeing and witnessing and experiencing patriotism and full unification at its highest, right. I think that's super important. And so I believe that in order to build strong core communities, the project needs to have a strong vision, a strong foundation, strong goals that really strike emotions within the community members. For example, at Giraffe Tower, we want to stop trading time for dollars, period. And what that looks like for us, like me as a dad, I want to be able to spend time with my 6-year-old and 4-year-old sons while they're on spring break and not have to worry about, going to cash in a check somewhere. I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I still got to go to work. And, the way I see it in Giraffe Tower is just being able to have this dream, this vision, and have the founder and the tech to go ahead and allow this dream to become a reality. And what that looks like for us is because, we're also trauma bonding and having to continually trade time for money. And, where we've landed in our community, where the tech is being built, is that we're going to be able to have an AI agent bot trade autonomously for us on the Solana blockchain. And what that allows me to do as a data entrepreneur who has multiple streams of income, it frees my time up to not have to, chart and do TAs all the time. I can have a bot automatically do that. And, Honey touched on this second point as, what brings community together? Trauma, right? I experienced it in New York City with 9/11. I experienced it here in Giraffe Tower, being a member since 2021, of not wanting to trade time for dollars. How do you get community members to stick? Man, the brother hit it right on the head. You incentivize them. You put money in their pocket. Here at Giraffe Tower, we're looking to make the next wave of millionaires, and that's a big sticky point, right? Like, just take a look at our our floor, like the giraffe NFTs, my PFP. You could have bought a PFP back in February, early February, for about half Solana, point 0.6 Solana. Our floor is just over 5 Solana now. You talk about our Gary coin, that is the token to power our ecosystem. In the same time frame, you could have bought Gary coin at 4 cents. We're just north of 20 cents now, and this is happening because we have core community members who are trauma bonded, not wanting to trade time for money, who are taking action, and we believe, we have conviction that this tech is going to set us free. And I'm just excited about it. I'm here to spread the vibes. I just want to let everybody know that, like, it's obtainable. What Web3 has taught me is that we can think outside the box. And, I'm just super grateful to be around like-minded individuals in this space, on this stage right here, being able to vibe on, building strong core communities. Because again, like I said when I started, that's the magic. That's the key to success, is having a strong community members who are believe and convicted in what the community and the founders are developing. So I appreciate you giving me space to go ahead and share that with
Yo,
everyone.
absolutely, man. And I will say, JJ, like you are a really great example of someone that is loud and representing the brand on the timeline, man. So, again, this really happens over time. I will just say that this is not a result of something overnight. So, JJ, appreciate your time here. And also just realize, man, when you're having a good time on Spaces, time tends to fly by. So I know we're approaching the last 10 minutes here on today's panel. And as always, I want to thank all the guests, from Honey Jar, Fio, Koinami, Matrica. I do want to go to Matrica, though, because I haven't heard a take from them yet. So, but look, want to say, again, massive thank you to everyone here in the audience. If you haven't already, follow the Wolf Swap account because we host these spaces every single week. So if you enjoy the vibes today, I encourage you to keep swinging by in the coming weeks as well. But Matrika, we'd love to hear from you. And maybe we can kind of treat the last 10 minutes here as kind of like a recap, key takeaway, kind of last 2 cents here on today's topic of building strong core communities. But Matrika, that being said, if you can just share one key takeaway that you would want to leave the audience with here when it comes to this topic, would love to hear your thoughts on this, Matrika. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. First off, just wanted to say everyone that was speaking earlier absolutely cooked. I agree with all your guys' takes. I would have chimed in more, but I had some connection issues earlier. So hopefully they're resolved. But with Matrica, we provide tools to power communities and allow founders to actually connect with their holders and create these strong bonds that we're talking about. Really getting into your core community and identifying like who's riding for you and who's just looking to like enter your community and make a little bit of money, right? So I would say the key to this is kind of like what we touched on earlier with like having a strong founder and team that kind of leads the way for the community to kind of fall in line with. I think that's super, super important. And you know what, Matrica, we've powered close to 5,000 different projects at this point over the past 3 years. And from what I've seen working with all these teams is it's always the ones with a super strong alignment between their founder, the founder's vision, and the community that succeed. And if you look at a lot of these top projects, like regardless of chain, it's always a strong founder, a strong team, and then the community kind of falling in line with like what they're presenting and what they're pushing forward with. Whereas I think a lot of these projects that don't succeed, you kind of have like a founder where you hit these points of like uncertainty where the community's like, hey, like when update, and they kind of are like, okay, let's get an update out today just to make them happy, and they kind of start to pivot away from like their original vision. And I think that it kind of shows like a lack of leadership ability. And it ultimately starts to unravel within the community because the core people that started joining for that one reason is, hey, we're going from point A to point B and this is like what we agree with. They start to see these little pivots and they're like, hey, this isn't really what I signed up for. So I think just having that strong founder and like team alignment with the community and like a centralized vision of this is where we're going and this is what we want to build, and then sticking to it through all the FUD, through all the when update, I think that's like the key here to building like a super strong core community.
Yo, absolutely, man. Matrika, the first take you say in today's space is a banger. And I love that. So nonetheless, Matrika, would love to have you back on here on some more spaces in the future. I see Juju with his hand up. Juju, what's going on, man?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. Um, and yeah, sorry for the whole music thing from Warsaw, right? It's crazy. X is wild. So, like, talking about the takes, what we're discussing right now in the space, I love what Matrika just said. I love what all speakers said, right? And now just trying to lean into a more maybe light-hearted angle, right? If you're looking back then, like historic times, right? You see back then in the past, you're seeing the king leading the warriors to battle, right? So you could actually visualize it the same way with projects, whether in Web 2, whether in Web 3, like whatever, right? That the founder himself is the main lead, is the main like focal point for every project, right? He needs to be out there, maybe on the timeline, on X, engaging with the community, making himself super accessible, like all the very transparent, like other speakers said as well. So just being out there on the timeline, doing the same thing the community members do, but they're engaging with raids with them, just making posts about the project, making his own like contents, video contents, being out there and very accessible to the community members is a very good way to actually build out your community and make them very strong and become like cult like. So if anything, we could actually pick out those points from all these epic times, like in reality and history, right? And utilize them when you're trying to build out a product, and it's definitely gonna work out great.
Man, absolutely, man. And look, I feel like we're gonna have to do a part two of this conversation because I feel there's so much left unsaid that are so much important points to add to this convo. But for the sake of time, I do want to get some closing thoughts here from our guests here. So I'll go to Honey Jar here next. Honey Jar, just some key takeaways. Well, what are some recap points you just want to share as we wrap up today's space, man? Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again for having us on. We could yap about this for part two for sure. I'd say elements to making a strong community and core community is top-down effects with a vocal founder. Like in our case, we have janitor. Setting that culture and really being vocal about what you're trying to provide and what value you're bringing back. I think that's absolutely huge. Distribution as well, not just for early users, but for the future users and making things accessible for them, providing transparent and frequent, updates of information, whether it's your core vision or it's, multiple products that you're offering, and explaining to people, if they came in from one thing, why they might want to be interested in the other, and, being vocal about the interconnectedness, right? So for in our situation, whether it's our NFTs or education purposes, it all comes back to the vision of growing the ecosystem and providing value back to our core communities through our products. And vocalizing things like, hey, we have a validator, we have X, Y, and Z, and they all actually coincide with one another, or offer you a service. So I think those things are super important. And partners, partnering with other people within your ecosystem or like-minded people, that cross-pollination is super huge and just reinforces what you're building and grows your users and grows their users and can be very powerful. So yeah, hello. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Appreciate you, honey. And again, I love you looping in the Henlo at the very end. An example, guys, of the brand Bible being used live on a space. But Honey Jar, appreciate your time as always. Would love to have you back on a future space again. Gonna toss it over to Theo. Theo, any recap, key takeaway thoughts you want to leave today's space with, man? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Yeah, I'm always just kind of like floored by what community is, right? What is a social gathering of people? People are very different. There's communities that vastly vary, right? You got communities from CrossFit gyms to, I don't know, alcohol anonymous, right? Like the CrossFit gyms, you got people who are like combining and suffering physically with each other, right? With having communal bonding. And then you have people who are bonding over, suffering from drinking too much. Um, that's really interesting to me. And kind of what holds that foundation together is, shared vulnerability, but also being able to kind of protect that space. You know what I mean? And being able to, have a safe place where you can share your thoughts, be heard, but also feel like, one, you're not going to be exploited, and you're going to be able to kind of come together with shared interests and have people that are kind of watching your back. I think security is a huge factor in this. I think any good project can die in a day if they're not taking usability and security into account, especially when you're dealing with anything financial. So, that one of the reasons why I like working at Freewheel Protocols is I feel like that we've done both. We've secured our technology. Our layer one is pretty solid, and we have really good partners who we are extremely transparent with, and we like that. Plus, we also have built a protocol that focuses on enhancing everyone else's brand, right? At Field Protocol, it's basically user at domain. So it can be user at Coinomi, it can be user at Honeypot. And we also do rev share. So it's a way that we try to tie in, our vested interest, but with the community's vested interest, as diverse as that might be. So a little bit of a ramble there, but I think I kind of tied it in at the end. And yeah, just my closing thoughts.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you sharing a little bit around Theo for those that are new. So, guys, if you haven't already, shoot all of our guests honestly a follow and take a scroll through their accounts so you can get a bit more familiar with what they are building. But Theo, appreciate your takes here. Last but not least, I see Coinomi probably had to drop due to the tight hour end here, but nonetheless, no worries, man. And look, probably with the last 2 minutes remaining. One more hand shot up. Honey Jar, what's going on? Unless I'm mistaken, Honey Jar. I don't know if that was a mistake. Unless you want to say something.
Yeah, I'll just say for maybe anyone who's interested in learning a bit about the Barachain ecosystem or what we offer at the Honey Jar, I'd say, yeah, give a follow. If you're into meme coins, we've also have our featured meme coin called Henlo, which is sort of the catchphrase of the Bears, but much more intertwined with our ecosystem. So I'd definitely say follow the Henlo account or THJ if you're interested in learning more, or hop in the Discord. Yeah. Oh, also, mods and helpers are super crucial to building communities. They're the ground support for new people, and any questions when they enter an ecosystem. So super important.
Love that, man. Honey Jar, appreciate the tag there. I see Coinomi back on the panel. Coinomi, any last minute thoughts you want to share with us today, man? Go ahead.
Last minute, understand your demographic, look at your partners, go to their communication and their community channels, understand what they have, write down what might be lacking, decide to develop or create a community where they could send their members and know that they're not going to get totally sucked into your community, but it adds something to their members community over at your place so that it's symbiotic and not parasitic relationship. Do the same with new projects that you're targeting, so that's a pitch that you can bring to them of how your community syncs so well, since we know how important it is in crypto. When you're understanding your demographic, not just their age and their breakdown across the world, but what they're looking for beyond just price goes up or newest alpha. Understand what they really want to get out of being in that community and why they joined your Discord. If it was for a support question, maybe you need to make your technology more understandable, and they can be a part of that mission and can be a part of that process. Really dig in here. Don't spare any moments to try to better understand the people in your community. If it's 5, 100, or 10,000, and all you do is send out Q&A forms to better understand how you can grow that to the next zero and the zero after that. Have great partners like Theo for many years. Keep working with them and recommending each other so that you grow together. And that's all from us. Thank you again so much for hosting this panel and for including us. We look forward to future conversations and hearing that ding many times in the future.
Let's go, man. I love it. Look, guys, I will encourage everyone once again, if you haven't followed the Wolf Swap account, there's going to be plenty more spaces just like this one. And please shoot a follow to our awesome guests here, because these guys have all shared an amazing take throughout today's space. So much love. Shout out to Honey Jar, Theo, Koinami, Matrika, and JJ for hopping up on today's panel as well. But look, ladies and gents, I will wrap things up right here, right now. It's been a phenomenal conversation the past hour. And as always, whether it's your daytime, nighttime, afternoon, whatever time zone you're in, I wish you a beautiful rest of your day. And we will see you guys at the next one. Cheers and peace.